So today we've got a story about Central Texas Spine Institute. You know, we've worked with a lot of spine guys. I've got James King on with me. James, say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, so we really like this one, and I'll tell you why it's interesting. Well, first of all, we've had this customer with us for a long time. They started as a very interesting account because we had to sort of go in and shoot some video, refresh their website, do some general kind of cleanup. But now it's gotten to a point where Dr. Dreyer, who's been a really good candidate for us to help support the strategy of how we use the pain assessment tool and how we get patients to come through. You know, you can see how well he's doing because, one, he does the things that we've always asked people to do, which is he just gives us simple little snippet content, which is great. And that's all we don't need to bother anybody with content other than just giving us some basic stuff of what they do on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever. And he likes to do it, which is good. But the other thing is that when you look at a guy like this who does a lot of surgeries and has a lot of action for his clinic or his practice, he has really begun, and I think this is where James can come in, he's really begun to have a good cost per lead acquisition strategy, right? So we've really narrowed this guy down to having a tremendous acquisitional target cost lowering over time. And it's been that way ever since even with COVID, which we're going to talk about today. But what's really cool about all of this is that you know, for a very, very low cost, the generation of activity is amazing. And this is because we've been building content over and over and over. So James, why don't you take it away? Talk a little bit about what you've been up to, and we'll go through the Facebook ads, and we'll talk a little bit about what he's done and cost per acquisition and so forth.
Sure. So what he runs, we run two campaigns. We drive traffic to his site, and we also are doing an ebook download for him. It's How to Choose a Spine Surgeon. It's kind of a way to introduce himself to the new eyeballs that we're running ads to, and it's worked really great. We run it to the same audience. Now, here's the kicker to all of this. He spends, you ready? $500 a month in ad spend. And he's generated multitude of clients, patients from these ads. So money very well.
It took us some time to get there. I mean, it wasn't like that all the time. I mean, that's the thing, right? We've whittled this down over years, you know, so that he has such a big audience he's built. That's the key.
Correct. Just remember, like you said, how long he's been with us? A few years now, more than a few years. And we've built up to this. What I'm showing you right now is from the first day the pandemic really started, first week of March into to date. And like I said, with a minimum budget, we've been running the web traffic, which has driven over almost 3,000 people to his site, which, like you said, have filled out the pain assessment forms, have driven phone calls, just direct contact signups, right? And that is really a branding campaign that is driving those conversions, right? And then we are running what they call a lead ad set, where they kind of easily submit their name, email, and phone number, and it triggers a ebook download that gets emailed to the person, submitting their information. And it's just how to choose a spine surgeon, to understand how he operates, his way of doing business, so to say, and it introduces it to him because he's a spine surgeon. With medical doctors, they first come up on your feed. Who is this person? What do they do? And what, like you alluded to before, one of the key things he does is he does testimonials, and he does them, which is really a cool way of doing it. Instead of just putting the patient in front of the screen, he sits there with them and he has a conversation. So it humanizes the spine doctor. So, between the web traffic and, the download and his videos and a really website that's humming along, he's been one of our top clients, and he's been a great case study, which we're doing right now,
Could you open up like a 30-day window for us to see what happened in the last 30 days? So let's just take an example. So if someone's watching this, they can say, oh, well, that's great, but what happened in the last 30 days?
So we drove 110 unique people to his website, okay, at 90 cents per visitor. And we've driven 34 leads into his CRM at $11 per lead for that ebook download that we discussed. So I
Right.
mean, and look at the spend right here, 495. And
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to get to $11 per lead for a spinal surgeon is unheard of. I mean, if you run pay-per-click ads for spinal surgeons, I mean, it's $200 to $300 a lead. And I mean, for a solid lead. Obviously, these are downloads of ebooks, so they're in the maybe middle funnel. They're in the so you do have to call them afterwards. Obviously, they have a front desk that calls them. And when we start translating this to revenue, we know that he's super active and that he's actually tapered his spend because he's so active with his patients coming from the consistency of this, meaning that if he's getting 34 leads just off of $500, when he was spending $3,000, he was getting 6x that, right? So, and I
exactly,
think
it was excessive, and that's why we pulled it back, and we throttled the budget until we found a sweet spot. Like you said, it took time to get there. I think it was about, all in all, about 6 months. We were going back and forth with the budget, and then we finally found the sweet spot of a budget and the amount of work that he could absorb, and it was at around the $500 mark, which means that our conversion rates were high,
right,
right?
yeah,
Obviously, sending him 6 times this, he can only do X amount of operations in a month's time, or a 2 month
right.
period. So we throttled it back to the point where he could absorb that work, and this is where we landed.
Yeah, and obviously we're doing other things for him. It's just not the ad spend. We're doing, a little bit of SEO work for him from a local perspective. We're doing a little bit of content marketing. We're doing a little bit of everything. So it's sort of like all those things combined. Why don't
Hmm.
you show, maybe if we can find one of those examples of a testimonial video that
Sure,
we're using,
sure.
because I think that's the key is like, why are these things popping? And I think what's happening is we've got a whole bunch of them. You can see that there's, we
The one,
had
the
up to
one,
9
the one that's
different versions
performing,
of this.
the one that's performing best, the best ad is at $9. That one's coming in at $9 lead, which is crazy. But let me give you an example right here. Hold on, let me line up for you.
I'm starting this video a little bit differently than some of the ones I've done before. This is Dr. Dreyer. This is the x-ray of a patient that we're going to talk to. He's had a fusion from T10 to the bottom of his spine. That's what it looks like from the front, and that's what it looks like from the back. His alignment is excellent. He had multi-level degenerative disc disease and had intolerable racked pain. He couldn't function. He works in the oil field, or no, as a construction supervisor. Tell us a little bit about what your pain was like before your surgery.
My pain was getting to the point it was unbearable. I couldn't even walk.
And you went through physical therapy, medications, and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, the epidurals, all that.
Were you able to function at work well or not?
No, it was causing a big problem at work because I had to keep sitting down and resting because the pain was so bad.
We're 6 months out. You've started going back to the gym. You're working at work as a construction supervisor. What's your pain level now compared to what it was like before the surgery?
Oh, my pain level now is nothing like what it was before. Right now, late in the day, I might get up to a 3.
Okay.
Take a couple of aspirin, I'm typically okay.
And what are you doing in the gym? You get on the treadmill?
I get on the treadmill, working on the treadmill. Then right now, particularly just working on my leg strength, a little bit on the back.
How far can you go on the treadmill?
I'm doing 1.5 miles, 2 miles on the treadmill.
Could you have ever done that before the surgery?
No. No.
I didn't think so. So you're working on your leg strength, and you told me you're working on a leg press machine.
Oh yeah.
How much are you pushing on that?
500 pounds.
I couldn't do that.
On the leg press.
No, that's crazy.
James, why don't you put it on pause? I get it.
Could you say?
So that's basically, and then he wraps it up from there. So I mean,
Yeah.
Dr. Dreyer, he really takes the viewer on a journey, right?
Yeah.
Shows the operation, shows the patient, and then kind of walks him through it. Real simple, but so effective, and it shows obviously because the way you get to this $9 a lead isn't just because it's because of the content. basically Facebook rewards you and says, listen, there are a lot of people that are engaging with this, which means they are interested in the story, and you get rewarded by getting these kind of low cost leads right here, like this one.
Right. Well, there's two other pieces to this. Is one, we've experimented. You can see there's 9 or 10 different ad sets, and so 10 different times we've tried different things, and we've learned over time what works the best and what we're putting the most effort towards. It's almost like, we're leveraging what he's given us, and then we work the details out on what works best within Facebook. We figure out its algorithm, and then we turn it around to get the best performance
Yeah,
out of it at lowest
and,
cost.
and you have to understand that the feed is not a static medium. It changes, and so do the people. So a video that worked 12 months ago may not work 2 months ago, right? New people come on, old people drop off. So that's what we do. We keep an eye on which ones the audience is gravitating towards, and then we kind of serve it up to them until they're sick of it or leave. That's basically it.
Right.
That's how this works.
One of the other things, if you open that back up, and I know we didn't talk about it before, but if you open that ad back up, and obviously, this goes into Instagram and all the different feeds, mobile and desktop, but
Correct.
look at the amount of comments on that ad.
Yes. So go like this. Hold on.
Yeah. So what you're really also seeing, and I know you might not be able to display it right away, but what you're also really seeing is engagement. And I think a lot of the marketing companies don't understand what the value of engagement is. And the value of engagement is more important than even your views. Because what's happening here is that people are going to now click the button. It's a soft sell for a download. And that's the key is this is all middle funnel activity. People have made a decision. They're looking around. Now they find this doctor, and you can see there's dozens and dozens of comments. What that's triggering is a very simple psychological transition for someone, which is that if they're doing it and people are talking about it, then I got to know about it, right? And when you run these ads enough times, you can see there's 239 people have liked it. There's 63 comments. People are going to say, what the heck is going on? Why am I not in here? I have bad back. What do I? Now, obviously, not everybody has such a dire situation. So there's other ads that are running that are going to be a little bit different. And then we just kind of run them all together, and you come up with a mixology. And this is sort of I would say, the alchemy of or almost alchemy of gold in this world of marketing is to find these snippets of content that play well and that use the forces of the algorithm of Facebook to sort of deliver the right type of mechanism for someone to make a decision. And usually that's what's happening, is that they're getting that download of the ebook, and the download of the ebook is just more of a, it's sort of a, okay, great, they get the content and they might peruse it, but really what's happening is that that's the first sign that they're saying, okay, I'm going to reach out for help. And then, they get a call from the office, and then it's on its way, right?
Correct. That it's a combination. Plus, I mean, if you look at his comment thread, Matt, it's all wonderful. There's nothing, and we're not blocking anything out. This is all real people, pain free. Wouldn't choose anyone else. Like, that sells. That's what's it's the social media version of a referral. That's what you're looking at, and referrals still are the strongest form of marketing, right? So it's just being propagated by a social media ad. And that's why he does so well.
Yep. And it's proven the point that, you can get decent leads through Facebook for spying and Instagram for spying. You don't have to pay through the nose like we know other people do to just buy the leads from Google. You can do both, obviously, and then we started that way, which is that we were running a pretty extensive budget in pay-per-click when we first started many years ago, and we were running an extensive budget, but we've honed it down, and it really proves the point over time. There's some advantages of leverage of learning and having a good team behind you to help support your growth, and really to make a shortcut of the whole discussion, it's really understanding the mechanics of all this stuff. And we try and help people understand this, but it's best to have a professional work with you on this, because you're going to just end up fighting your own battles of trying to solve Facebook's challenges which might be, at some point we see a lot of people who can't even run ads because they've tripped up so many wires within Facebook, and they've gotten themselves X'd out of the ad campaigns because of the ways that you have to be very careful about presenting the doctor material on especially nowadays, when there's things that have to be considered in Facebook's proprietary system that trips off all these sort of, I would say, woke alarms, right? So
Yeah, they call them community guidelines, but yeah, that's generally it's they want you to stay away from certain things, but it's always changing, and that's the point. What worked last week, is not working this week, and so on and so forth. That's how Facebook is, and they're not very good at telling you when they make the changes, so you have to be on it almost every day to understand it.
Yeah, and that's sort of the end of the rope. James, it's wonderful talking to you about this example, and we'll do other examples, and I think this is a shining bright star of the ability to really maximize profitability for these leads that are coming through. So thanks for your help, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.
Talk to you later.